Yeah, the past 72 hours in the crypto world have been absolutely wild, with things heating up overseas and nonstop headlines fueling the momentum. It's no surprise everyone's feeling a bit on edge. A big question now is how stocks will open tomorrow, and we'll definitely dive into that in just a bit. But now let's break things down because there's a lot to unpack. First off, we've seen a ton of targets either hit or come really close, which is exciting. But the big question on everyone's mind is, was that it? Have we hit the bottom? Are we about to see a recovery? Of course, no one can give you a 100% guaranteed answer, but here's what we know. Looking at the hourly charts, we're starting to see some nice green candles, which is definitely a good sign. Day to day, week to week, and even month to month, things are still looking pretty red across the board. But the yearly? Now that's a different story. Check this out. XLM is still up 152%. HBAR is holding strong with a 72.2% gain. And XRP is up an impressive 314%. Crazy, right? These numbers really highlight why sticking around in this market can be so much more powerful than trying to time it perfectly. Of course, there's still reason to be cautious. Daily, weekly, and monthly trends are still showing big drops. So the big question is, was that the bottom? By the end of this video, I'll give you my thoughts on it. You might not love the answer, but hey, you might just find it reassuring. The market is currently sitting at a 3.16 trillion market cap, but there's been a noticeable shift in sentiment lately. The fear and greed index has started to drop. Right now it's at 37. If you look back, there was a steady climb up until mid-May, and then uncertainty hit, bringing us back down to the same 37 level we saw in April. In fact, we've seen this level pop up a few times recently in February, October, September, and August. This is definitely a level worth paying attention to because it reflects the growing fear in the market right now. And honestly, it's not without reason. It's one of those moments where you can really feel the uncertainty weighing on things. Hey everyone, so Bitcoin is currently sitting at $100,600.00, and Ethereum is at $2,200.00. XRP is around $2.00 as of today. And believe it or not, this is after a bit of a bounce in the market. Let's take a quick look at what's been happening. On the daily chart, Bitcoin actually wicked down to about $98,286.00 earlier today. And XRP dropped to around $1.91. So if you've been following along, you might remember I mentioned some potential lows being hit on these charts. I'm really glad those of you in the Discord caught that update. Looks like it came in handy. As we move forward, we're seeing some bigger swings in the market, so stay tuned for what's next. Let's dive into what's happening right now because there's a lot to unpack. First, we'll touch on Bitcoin and the potential for more downward pressure. Don't worry, we'll come back to that. But the big topic on everyone's mind is this: are we headed toward World War III? It feels like that phrase is everywhere right now, doesn't it? Okay, let's break it down, starting with what happened today. A major development from Iran. According to the Qubazi letter, Iran's parliament has officially approved closing the Strait of Hormuz for the first time since 1972. But there's a catch. It still needs approval from Iran's top security body. If this goes through, it could disrupt shipments of over 20 million barrels of oil a day. That's huge. So what's next? There's more to this story, and we're here to explain it step by step. Let me take a step back and explain. So it looks like X isn't showing us the thread properly, but here's the gist of it. Oil prices are set to skyrocket. This, of course, means higher gas prices, which can affect the entire economy. After all, nobody wants to deal with insanely high gas costs, right? It's something everyone's talking about and trying to figure out. What's next with all this? Will things get blown out of proportion or escalate to the next major level? Honestly, we don't have a clear answer yet. It's one of those situations where anything could happen. I mean, who saw the US launching an attack on Iran over the weekend? Nobody saw that coming. This is exactly why I've always said, and I've mentioned this plenty of times, there are just some things technical analysis can't predict. TA is only as useful as the data we can actually see on the chart. But here's the real question. If things do escalate, what's that going to mean for the markets? Odds are we'd see a big impact. That said, we've heard threats like this multiple times before, right? Like Iran threatening to shut things down, but will they follow through? Who knows? The Strait of Hormuz has been in the spotlight for years, since around 2000, if I'm remembering right. I think that Qubazi letter even mentioned it. Iran has threatened to close the strait about 10 times since then, but it's never actually happened. So who knows? We'll see what happens next. Here's the thing though. I feel like a lot of this might just be noise. Honestly, it seems like a big show, and I can't help but think we're being distracted from what's really going on, especially when it comes to crypto. We've talked before about major developments like legislation and adoption, and I believe that's where the focus should be. At this point, I wouldn't let all the noise shake you up. Stay grounded. Oh, and on another note, US intelligence officials have apparently spotted signs of Iran-backed actions. Militias might be planning attacks on US bases in Iraq and possibly Syria. But here's the thing. There's so much noise out there, and not a lot of it is backed by solid sources. These big accounts keep pushing claims, but where's the actual proof? Right now, it's hard to tell what's true and what's not. This kind of uncertainty is causing market manipulation to hit an all-time high, especially when so much is being shared without credible information to back it up. So it's important to take everything you see online with a grain of salt. And then there's all the chatter about World War III, something we've been hearing about over and over again lately. The past couple of days have been intense with things moving quickly. For example, the Kabisi letter came through faster than expected, within just an hour of the oil markets opening. But here's the surprising part. The big surge in oil prices has almost completely disappeared. Now, prices are up by just 0.5%. This comes after the US bombed Iran, and to those worrying about World War III, well, the markets clearly aren't convinced. Why? Because nobody wants a global war, and everyone is doing what they can to avoid it. But let's ask the question, what if the unthinkable happens? What if there really is a World War III? Honestly, it's not good. No one wants war. War brings destruction, and we all hope to steer clear of it. That said, there's an interesting perspective floating around, one from the crypto world. Some say war is bullish. On March 20, 2003, the Iraq War began. Around that time, the S&P 500, SPX, saw a notable correction after posting a 35% gain. It's giving off similar vibes this time around. Back then, we saw panic selling during the early stages of the Iraq War, followed by a rally of over 35%. As unfortunate as it is, history shows that war tends to be bullish for markets. We've mentioned this before. And even Tony Edward points it out, though no one wants to see this happen, the reality is that war often leads to governments firing up the money printers to fund it. This increase in global liquidity typically drives up asset prices. It's a tough truth to acknowledge. No one wants to see the worst case scenario play out, but even in that scenario, if we do go to war, markets are still likely to remain very bullish. It's important to understand how these dynamics work, even though the circumstances are far from ideal. Best case scenario, of course, is that none of this happens. Things should start to settle down in a couple of days. You know how it goes. Deals are made, peace treaties happen, and the markets keep moving forward. Personally, I think we're in for a major market recovery from this point on. That said, could we see a bit more turbulence when the stock market opens? Absolutely. But so far, stock futures are looking pretty solid. Nothing too dramatic in terms of price action, which is a good sign. Next, let's talk about Bitcoin. We just had the weekly candle close coming in at $100,906. Not exactly a super bullish close, and it actually dropped below previous resistance levels. So now we've got a bit of work to do to regain that ground. The next big target I'm keeping an eye on doesn't require us to drop all the way down into the 83K range. I know some people mentioned in my video yesterday, oh, if we hit 80K, it's the end of the world. But honestly, it's not. Let's take a step back and look at Bitcoin. Even if we did wick down to 80K, it's still way higher than where we've come from, and it wouldn't break the overall macro trend. That said, we don't need to drop that far. A quick dip into those levels could make sense, but the next key area to watch is around $93,234. Now, could we have already bottomed out here? It's possible. There's still plenty of support in this range, plus lots of price action to back it up. On the weekly chart, we've also just filled a nice little fair value gap, which is worth noting. It looks like Bitcoin might have hit its bottom, and we could be gearing up for a much bigger breakout from here. Of course, we're taking it one day at a time and keeping a close eye on how things open today. Now let's talk about XRP. It hit around $1.90, just slightly over my target range of $1.78 to $1.90. Honestly, the difference was just 0.41%. Pretty spot on. This was the key area I was watching, and we got really close to the mark. If the market has truly bottomed out and starts recovering from here, I'm expecting some exciting price action to follow. And hey, we managed to snag some XRP under $2, which feels like the new under $1 back in 2021. Looking forward from here, things are definitely getting interesting. Let's talk about how the markets will open tomorrow and why I think the environment for crypto is looking incredibly bullish right now. Beyond the fundamentals like legislation, adoption, and institutional interest, there's something else worth paying attention to: the dollar. If we take a look at the dollar, it's still looking pretty weak. And that's a good sign for risk on assets like crypto. A weaker dollar often means a stronger opportunity for crypto to shine. I'm feeling really optimistic about crypto this year. When you take everything we already know into account, it's hard not to be bullish. No matter what happens next, I believe crypto has a lot of upside potential. And when it comes to altcoins like XRP, now is not the time to flip bearish, even if the overall market still feels a bit shaky for altcoins. I want to share some thoughts with you all. When we look at Bitcoin dominance right now, we're sitting at 65.6%. That recent surge we were hoping for, we got it. While we didn't quite hit 66.91%, there's still a chance for another push in Bitcoin dominance. I don't think we've officially topped out just yet, but things are definitely moving in the direction we wanted to see, which is great news. Bitcoin dominance is climbing, and this could very well be the last big push before we start to see altcoin season kick off. As I've mentioned before, July is the timeframe I'm keeping my eye on for altcoins to really start gaining momentum. It doesn't have to be the official start of a full-blown alt season, but it's shaping up to be their time to shine soon. I really believe July is when we'll start to see old coins come alive again. Honestly, even late June into early July could be the start of it. Right now, we're seeing a lot of fear in the market, those scary headlines, major events causing concern. It's all happening. And this kind of fear usually shows up right before a big push for old coins. What we're experiencing now is market capitulation during a period of consolidation, which often sets the stage for a major recovery. You know, looking ahead, there's still the Fed's big decision on rate cuts coming in July with all the fear and uncertainty surrounding things like the potential for war. It could put even more pressure on that decision. Looking ahead, there's still plenty to be excited about in the crypto space. We've got the stablecoin legislation bill and the market structure bill on the horizon. So there's a lot happening that's still really bullish for the future. There's definitely a lot to look forward to. Honestly, I'm not feeling bearish or fearful right now, and I'm definitely not panicking. I feel pretty calm overall. Sure, seeing these lower price levels isn't fun. No one likes watching the market dip this low. But hey, we've already mapped out our targets, and if we hit them sooner than expected, that's okay too. Do I hope we don't go lower? Of course, but if it happens, we're ready for it, and that's what matters. The key is understanding how the market reacts to big headlines, fear, and overblown escalations. So to sum things up, could this be the bottom? It's definitely possible. We could very well be at that point. We've got a nice fair value gap here that's already been completely filled, and there's solid support in this area. There's also a lot of demand building up here. If you look back to November, what was once resistance has now flipped into support, at least for Bitcoin. We had a decent weekly close around 100.8K. It's not the best, but hey, it's not the worst either. Now, if we do drop lower from here, the next key target is around $93,200. I know it could be tough on altcoins. Beyond that, we're looking at about $83,000, the next major level. But let's take it one step at a time and see how things play out, especially when the stock market opens. I'll keep you updated throughout the week. And if you want more in-depth weekly market breakdowns delivered on time every single week, plus midweek updates, make sure to join the Discord. It's linked in the description below. You won't regret it. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe with notifications on for more free content. See you next time. Peace out.